The wind whipped through the skeletal trees, their branches clawing at the sky like the desperate fingers of the damned. A bone-deep chill seeped into my bones, a premonition of the horror that was about to unfold. Isabella, a musician whose talent was eclipsed only by her ambition, stood at the crossroads of her life. Tonight, on All Hallows' Eve, she would make a choice that would echo through eternity. The old oak, gnarled and twisted by centuries of dark magic, cast a sinister shadow over the desolate clearing. Isabella clutched her guitar close, her fingers tracing the worn wood like a prayer. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a malevolent force that seemed to feed on her desperation. "Are you sure about this, Isabella?" I whispered, my voice barely audible above the howling wind. "There's no turning back once you step onto this path." Isabella's eyes gleamed with a feverish intensity. "I'm willing to pay any price for my music to be heard," she declared, her voice echoing through the empty night. "Even if it means selling my soul to the devil himself." A shiver ran down my spine, a cold sweat breaking out on my brow. I had witnessed the horrors of the supernatural, the unspeakable terrors that lurked in the shadows. But Isabella's ambition blinded her to the danger that awaited her. Suddenly the air grew still, the wind dying down to an eerie silence. A figure emerged from the darkness, his silhouette casting a long, ominous shadow across the clearing. He wore a black cloak that seemed to absorb the moonlight, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. A chilling aura surrounded him, a palpable sense of evil that made my blood run cold. "Isabella," the stranger's voice rasped, each syllable dripping with malevolence. "I've been expecting you." Isabella stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. "I'm ready," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm ready to make a deal." The stranger smiled, a cruel, predatory grin that revealed a set of sharpened teeth. "Excellent," he hissed. "Then let us begin." The stranger produced a parchment from the folds of his cloak, the ink glowing with an unholy light. Isabella hesitated, her hand hovering over the contract. A wave of nausea washed over me, a visceral reaction to the darkness that emanated from the parchment. "Read it carefully, Isabella," I urged, my voice strained. "Understand the terms before you sign." But Isabella's resolve was unwavering. She took the quill offered by the stranger and with a trembling hand scrawled her name across the bottom of the contract. A gust of wind tore through the clearing, scattering fallen leaves like a macabre confetti. The stranger's laughter echoed through the night, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Congratulations, Isabella," the stranger sneered. "You've just sold your soul to the highest bidder." The parchment burst into flames, the contract consumed by an infernal fire. Isabella gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The stranger vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a lingering scent of sulfur and decay. The next morning, Isabella awoke with a newfound confidence. Her music seemed to flow effortlessly from her fingertips, each note imbued with a raw power that captivated her audience. Her first performance after the fateful night was a resounding success, the crowd roaring with approval. Isabella basked in the adulation, her dreams of fame and fortune finally within reach. But as the days turned into weeks, a series of strange accidents began to plague those around Isabella. Her bandmates suffered mysterious injuries, their instruments inexplicably breaking during rehearsals. The venues where she performed were plagued by electrical malfunctions and equipment failures. A sense of unease settled over Isabella, a gnawing fear that she had made a terrible mistake. One night, as Isabella was preparing for a sold-out show, a shadowy figure appeared in her dressing room mirror. It was the stranger from the crossroads, his eyes burning with an infernal light. "Isabella," his voice rasped, echoing through the room. "It's time to collect on our deal." Isabella's blood ran cold. She realized, with sickening clarity, that she had made a pact with the devil himself, and now he had come to claim her soul. Isabella stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest like a frantic drum. The stranger stepped out of the mirror, his form solidifying into a terrifying presence. The air in the dressing room grew heavy, the temperature plummeting as a wave of icy dread washed over Isabella. "You can't be real," Isabella stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "This is impossible," the stranger chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Isabella's spine. "Oh, but I am very real, my dear," he purred. "And our contract is binding." He reached out a skeletal hand, his fingers elongated and gnarled like the roots of an ancient tree. Isabella recoiled, her back pressed against the cold wall. The stranger's touch was like a searing brand, burning through her flesh and leaving a trail of frostbite in its wake. "You belong to me now, Isabella," the stranger hissed, his breath reeking of sulfur. "Your soul is forfeit." Isabella screamed, her voice echoing through the empty corridors of the theater. The stranger's grip tightened, his fingers digging into her skin. Isabella struggled to break free, her desperation fueling a surge of adrenaline. She kicked and thrashed, her nails raking across the stranger's face. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the dressing room. The stranger recoiled, his hand releasing its grip on Isabella. A figure emerged from the light, his presence radiating warmth and serenity. It was a priest, his face etched with lines of wisdom and compassion. "Leave this place, demon," the priest commanded, his voice booming through the room. "Your power holds no sway here," the stranger snarled, his eyes burning with hatred. "This is not your concern, priest," he growled. "This soul is mine." The priest raised a crucifix, the silver glinting in the ethereal light. The stranger hissed, recoiling from the sacred symbol. "Begone, foul creature," the priest intoned, his voice filled with divine authority. "Return to the darkness from whence you came." The stranger's form flickered, his presence growing weaker with each passing second. With a final, defiant roar, he vanished into thin air, leaving behind a lingering chill that permeated the room. Isabella collapsed onto the floor, her body trembling uncontrollably. The priest knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "You are safe now, child," he said, his voice soothing and reassuring. "But the devil will not give up so easily. You must find a way to break the contract before it's too late." Isabella looked up at the priest, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and fear. "How can I break the contract?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Is there any way to escape this nightmare?" The priest nodded, his expression grave. "There is always hope, child," he said. "But the path to redemption will be fraught with peril. You must be strong, Isabella. You must have faith." He handed her an ancient book, its leather cover worn and cracked. "This tome contains the knowledge you seek," the priest explained. "Study it carefully, and you may find a way to sever the ties that bind you to the devil." Isabella clutched the book tightly, a glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes. She thanked the priest profusely, her heart filled with a newfound determination. As the priest departed, Isabella retreated to her apartment, the weight of the book a constant reminder of the battle she now faced. Night after night, Isabella pored over the ancient text, deciphering its cryptic passages and arcane rituals. The book revealed the true nature of the devil's contract, the insidious clauses hidden within its fine print. Isabella learned that the devil thrived on despair and suffering, feeding on the negative energy that his victims generated. To break the contract, Isabella realized, she would have to confront her deepest fears and overcome the darkness that threatened to consume her. She would have to perform an act of selfless sacrifice, a gesture of pure love that would nullify the devil's claim on her soul. But the devil was not idle. He sent his minions to torment Isabella, whispering doubts and temptations into her ear. Nightmares plagued her sleep, visions of hellfire and eternal damnation. Isabella's resolve wavered, her spirit teetering on the brink of despair. One night, as Isabella sat alone in her apartment, the lights flickered and died. A cold wind swept through the room, carrying the stench of sulfur. The devil's laughter echoed through the darkness, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Isabella's spine. "Give up, Isabella," the devil's voice hissed. "Your struggle is futile. Embrace the darkness, and I will grant you eternal power." Isabella clutched the ancient book, its words a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. She knew that she could not succumb to the devil's temptations. She had to fight, not just for herself, but for the innocent lives that had been caught in the crossfire. "Never," Isabella cried, her voice defiant. "I will not surrender to your evil." The darkness coalesced into a swirling vortex, the devil's form emerging from its depths. His eyes burned with an infernal fire, his presence radiating a malevolent heat that threatened to consume the room. "You are a fool, Isabella," the devil snarled. "You cannot defy me. Your soul is mine, and I will have it." He lunged at Isabella, his claws outstretched like talons. Isabella screamed, her heart pounding in her chest. She raised the ancient book, its pages glowing with an ethereal light. The devil recoiled, hissing in pain as the light seared his flesh. Isabella scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. She knew that she had to act quickly, to find a way to break the contract before the devil regained his strength. A sudden realization struck her. The devil thrived on negativity, on the fear and despair that he instilled in his victims. To defeat him, Isabella would have to embrace the opposite, love and compassion. Isabella thought of her bandmates, their dreams shattered by the devil's machinations. She thought of the countless fans who had been drawn to her music, their lives touched by her melodies. She realized that her music was not just a means to an end, but a gift that she could use to spread joy and healing. With newfound purpose, Isabella grabbed her guitar and began to play. The notes flowed from her fingertips, each chord resonating with a pure, unadulterated love. The devil roared in frustration, his form contorting in agony as Isabella's music filled the room. The apartment walls shimmered and dissolved, revealing a vast, ethereal landscape. Isabella found herself standing on a stage, bathed in a celestial light. A multitude of faces gazed up at her, their eyes filled with hope and longing. Isabella closed her eyes and poured her heart into her music. The melodies soared, weaving a tapestry of love and compassion that enveloped the audience. The devil's presence waned, his power diminished by the outpouring of positive energy. As Isabella played, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The fear and doubt that had plagued her for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a profound sense of connection to something greater than herself. The devil's form flickered and faded, his roars of anger turning into whimpers of defeat. With a final despairing cry, he vanished into nothingness, leaving behind a trail of fading darkness. Isabella opened her eyes, her heart filled with a newfound joy. The apartment walls reappeared, the room bathed in the warm glow of the morning sun. She had faced the devil and emerged victorious, her soul redeemed by the power of love. The weight of the contract lifted from Isabella's shoulders, a tangible burden dissolving into the ether. She looked at her guitar, its strings still vibrating with the echoes of her music. It was no longer just an instrument, it was a conduit for a power far greater than any earthly fame or fortune. Isabella knew that her ordeal was not over. The devil might be vanquished for now, but his influence still lingered in the world. She resolved to use her music to combat the darkness, to spread a message of hope and resilience to those who needed it most. With renewed purpose, Isabella reunited with her bandmates. Their injuries had miraculously healed, their instruments restored to their former glory. Together, they embarked on a tour, their music carrying a message of love and defiance that resonated with audiences across the country. Isabella's fame grew exponentially, her concerts selling out in record time. But she never forgot the lessons she had learned from her encounter with the devil. She used her platform to speak out against injustice and inequality, to champion the causes of the marginalized and oppressed. Her music became an anthem for the voiceless, a rallying cry for those who dared to dream of a better world. Isabella's concerts transformed into gatherings of unity and empowerment, where people from all walks of life came together to celebrate the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. But even as Isabella basked in the adulation of her fans, she remained vigilant. She knew that the devil was always lurking in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to strike. She vowed to never let her guard down, to always be prepared to fight for the light. One night, as Isabella was leaving a concert venue, she felt a cold chill run down her spine. A sense of unease settled over her, a premonition of danger that she couldn't shake. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, a figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking her path. It was a man, his face obscured by a dark hood. Isabella froze, her breath catching in her throat. "Isabella," the man's voice rasped, each syllable dripping with menace. "We need to talk." Isabella's instincts screamed at her to run, to flee from the ominous figure that stood before her. But a strange curiosity held her captive, a morbid fascination with the darkness that seemed to emanate from the hooded man. "Who are you?" Isabella demanded, her voice trembling slightly. "What do you want?" The man chuckled, a dry, humorless sound that echoed through the deserted alleyway. "You know who I am, Isabella," he replied, his voice raspy and distorted. "Or at least you know what I represent." Isabella's blood ran cold. She recognized the voice, the insidious tone that had haunted her nightmares. It was the devil, returned to torment her once more. "You can't touch me," Isabella said, her voice defiant. "I broke the contract. My soul is no longer yours." The devil laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Isabella's spine. "Oh, but you're wrong, my dear," he hissed. "The contract may be broken, but the debt remains." He stepped closer, his hooded face inches from Isabella's. She could feel his breath on her skin, a fetid stench that made her gag. "You may have escaped my grasp once, Isabella," the devil continued, his voice a venomous whisper. "But you cannot outrun your destiny. The darkness will always find you." Isabella's defiance wavered. A wave of doubt washed over her, threatening to drown her in despair. The devil's words echoed in her mind, planting seeds of fear and uncertainty. "You're lying," Isabella stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I won't let you control me." The devil smiled, a cruel, predatory grin that revealed a set of sharpened teeth. "We'll see about that, Isabella," he said. "We'll see." He vanished into the shadows, leaving Isabella alone in the alleyway. She stood there for a long moment, her body trembling with a mixture of anger and fear. The devil's words had shaken her to her core, planting a seed of doubt that threatened to blossom into full-blown paranoia. Isabella returned to her hotel room, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that the devil was still watching her, waiting for her to falter. She knew that she couldn't let him win, but the constant fear and anxiety were taking their toll. As the days passed, Isabella's paranoia grew. She saw the devil's influence everywhere, in the flickering lights, the creaking floorboards, the whispers of the wind. Her music suffered, her once vibrant melodies now tinged with a melancholic undertone. Her bandmates grew concerned, their attempts to comfort her falling on deaf ears. Isabella withdrew into herself, her once bright spirit dimming with each passing day. The devil's plan was working, his insidious whispers slowly eroding Isabella's sanity. One night, as Isabella lay awake in her hotel room, she heard a knock at the door. Her heart pounded in her chest, her fear reaching a fever pitch. She knew with sickening certainty that the devil had returned to finish what he had started. Isabella hesitated, her hand hovering over the doorknob. A cold sweat broke out on her brow, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She knew she couldn't hide forever, but the thought of facing the devil again filled her with a bone-chilling dread. With a trembling hand, Isabella opened the door. Standing on the threshold was not the devil, but a familiar face, the priest who had saved her from the dressing room. His eyes shone with a gentle warmth, his presence a soothing balm to Isabella's frayed nerves. "Isabella," the priest said, his voice filled with concern. "I've been looking for you." Isabella stepped aside, allowing the priest to enter the room. He sat on the edge of the bed, his gaze fixed on Isabella's troubled face. "I sense a darkness within you, child," the priest said softly. "A darkness that threatens to consume you." Isabella nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "The devil. He's back. He's trying to break me." The priest reached out, taking Isabella's hand in his. "He cannot break you, Isabella," he said firmly. "Not if you refuse to let him." He paused, his eyes searching Isabella's. "The devil's greatest weapon is fear, Isabella. He feeds on your doubt, your anxiety, but you have a power far greater than his, the power of love." Isabella's eyes widened. She remembered the feeling of peace and connection she had experienced during her concert, the overwhelming sense of love that had vanquished the devil. "You are not alone in this fight, Isabella," the priest continued. "The light is always with you, even in the darkest of times. You just have to remember to look for it." The priest's words resonated with Isabella, a spark of hope igniting within her. She realized that she had been so focused on fighting the devil that she had forgotten the strength she carried within herself. With renewed determination, Isabella picked up her guitar. She closed her eyes and began to play, channeling the love and compassion that had once saved her. The music flowed through her, a vibrant melody that filled the room with warmth and light. As Isabella played, she felt the darkness recede, the devil's whispers fading into silence. A sense of peace settled over her, a profound understanding that she was not alone. The light was with her always. When Isabella finished playing, she opened her eyes to find the priest smiling at her. "You see, Isabella," he said gently, "the darkness cannot withstand the light. You are stronger than you know." Isabella nodded, tears of gratitude streaming down her face. She had faced the devil twice and emerged victorious. She had learned that true power lay not in fame or fortune, but in the boundless capacity for love that resided within the human heart. From that day forward, Isabella's music carried a message of hope and resilience, a beacon of light in a world shrouded in darkness. She continued to tour, her concerts inspiring countless others to embrace the light within themselves. The devil never returned, his power forever diminished by Isabella's unwavering spirit. She had broken free from his grasp, not through a contract or a ritual, but through the simple act of choosing love over fear. And so Isabella's story became a legend, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Her music lived on, a timeless reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. Isabella hesitated, her hand hovering over the doorknob. A cold sweat broke out on her brow, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She knew she couldn't hide forever, but the thought of facing the devil again filled her with a bone-chilling dread. With a trembling hand, Isabella opened the door. Standing on the threshold was not the devil, but a familiar face, the priest who had saved her from the dressing room. His eyes shone with a gentle warmth, his presence a soothing balm to Isabella's frayed nerves. "Isabella," the priest said, his voice filled with concern. "I've been looking for you." Isabella stepped aside, allowing the priest to enter the room. He sat on the edge of the bed, his gaze fixed on Isabella's troubled face. "I sense a darkness within you, child," the priest said softly. "A darkness that threatens to consume you." Isabella nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "The devil. He's back. He's trying to break me." The priest reached out, taking Isabella's hand in his. "He cannot break you, Isabella," he said firmly. "Not if you refuse to let him." He paused, his eyes searching Isabella's. "The devil's greatest weapon is fear, Isabella. He feeds on your doubt, your anxiety, but you have a power far greater than his, the power of love." Isabella's eyes widened. She remembered the feeling of peace and connection she had experienced during her concert, the overwhelming sense of love that had vanquished the devil. "You are not alone in this fight, Isabella," the priest continued. "The light is always with you, even in the darkest of times. You just have to remember to look for it." The priest's words resonated with Isabella, a spark of hope igniting within her. She realized that she had been so focused on fighting the devil that she had forgotten the strength she carried within herself. With renewed determination, Isabella picked up her guitar. She closed her eyes and began to play, channeling the love and compassion that had once saved her. The music flowed through her, a vibrant melody that filled the room with warmth and light. As Isabella played, she felt the darkness recede, the devil's whispers fading into silence. A sense of peace settled over her, a profound understanding that she was not alone. The light was with her always. When Isabella finished playing, she opened her eyes to find the priest smiling at her. "You see, Isabella," he said gently, "the darkness cannot withstand the light. You are stronger than you know." Isabella nodded, tears of gratitude streaming down her face. She had faced the devil twice and emerged victorious. She had learned that true power lay not in fame or fortune, but in the boundless capacity for love that resided within the human heart. From that day forward, Isabella's music carried a message of hope and resilience, a beacon of light in a world shrouded in darkness. She continued to tour, her concerts inspiring countless others to embrace the light within themselves. The devil never returned, his power forever diminished by Isabella's unwavering spirit. She had broken free from his grasp, not through a contract or a ritual, but through the simple act of choosing love over fear. And so Isabella's story became a legend, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Her music lived on, a timeless reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope.